Ukraine just fielded the Protector UGV hunter-killer pickup. Ukraine is now live testing a ground drone that drives itself into battle and fires a 50 caliber machine gun like it's starring in Terminator Salvation. Today, we're taking a closer look at the Protector UGV, a remote-operated battle truck that can scoot into danger, shoot accurately, and leave human operators safely in the rear, presumably with the gear. Hey friends, Wes here, multi-branch veteran, studying for the bar exam and still recovering from Thanksgiving pecan pie. Let's see, civil procedure, personal jurisdiction, subject matter jurisdiction. Okay. Let's break down why this matters, why Russia should probably stop parking anything valuable near the front, and how unmanned ground vehicles are becoming the next big step in modern warfare. So Ukraine is well known for turning its front line into a tech lab. The front line in Ukraine hasn't moved much in months, but the fighting is slow, grinding, and dominated by drones and artillery. Every soldier counts, and every casualty hurts. That kind of environment forces militaries to innovate fast, and both Ukraine and Russia are now leaning heavily on automation and unmanned systems. Over the past year, both sides have turned to unmanned ground vehicles for almost everything. These machines are now moving wounded soldiers, hauling ammunition, and delivering supplies. Conducting reconnaissance and even acting as armed platforms. Most of these UGVs, however, have been small and relatively simple. Many are little more than tracked toolboxes carrying rifles or grenades. Ukraine's new system is something entirely different. The Protector is a full-size truck. It does not need a driver, it does not need a gunner, and it delivers heavy firepower without putting any human life at risk. That combination alone is enough to change how commanders think about frontline missions. Meet the Protector, a remote-operated truck with a 50 caliber punch. Ukrainian Armored Vehicles, a Kyiv-based manufacturer, released test footage showing the Protector firing its Tavria 12.7 turret. That turret carries the legendary M2 Browning 50 caliber machine gun, a weapon that has been punching holes in vehicles and fortifications since the 1930s. The brilliance of the Protector isn't the gun itself, it's the integration. A remotely driven truck paired with a remotely operated heavy machine gun turret creates a true unmanned fire support platform. The operator sits safely behind the lines, controlling both mobility and firepower with zero risk to human life. Company director Vladislav Belbas said the weapon performed reliably during both stationary firing tests and while shooting on the move. Hitting targets while bouncing across terrain is challenging even for crewed vehicles. Achieving that unmanned is an impressive demonstration of stability and control. The Protector can drive up to 400 kilometers on remote control, which works out to roughly carry the 250 miles. That gives an operator the ability to move it across large sections of the front. It can also carry a payload of around 700 kilograms. That opens the door for heavy ammunition loads, medical evacuation equipment, or additional weapon systems. Its top speed of 37 miles per hour won't set any records, but it's significantly faster than the smaller tracked UGVs Ukraine has been deploying. The drone truck also meets NATO Level 1 ballistic protection, giving it the ability to withstand rifle fire and shrapnel while staying light enough for mobility. Removing the driver's cabin has two advantages. First, it eliminates the biggest vulnerability, the humans, and second, the available bed area becomes wide open for cargo, stretchers, ammunition crates, or weapon mount. Technically, 8 people can sit on the back, although doing that would probably be the fastest way to meet an early reincarnation. But let's talk about that remote turret station. The Tavria 12.7 is a remotely operated turret typically mounted on armored personnel carriers. In a traditional setup, a human operator sits safely inside the vehicle using camera feeds to aim and fire the weapon. But on the Protector, that same turret becomes entirely unmanned. The turret's sensors allow it to operate in both day and night conditions. Its armor gives it protection against rifle rounds, fragments, and the internal recoil system keeps the M2 Browning stable. even when the vehicle is moving across rough ground. The 50 caliber machine gun fires between 450 and 550 rounds per minute, which allows the Protector to suppress infantry, damage soft vehicles, and chew through light fortifications. The entire weapon system can be aimed with precision, creating the kind of remote firepower that usually requires an armored carrier and a full crew. So why a drone truck? Well, because Ukraine builds weapons the way startups build apps. It's worth remembering that the Protector was never meant to be a gun truck. It began as a logistics UGV built for medevac and supply missions. The idea was simple: send an unmanned vehicle into places where human drivers would get killed by mostly Russian drones. But Ukrainian engineers rarely stop at the first idea. Once they had a working platform, they immediately began asking whether it could also carry weapons. And once the idea of mounting a machine gun was on the table, the rest became inevitable. Ukraine's battlefield is full of examples like this. FPV drones have become flying anti-tank weapons. Naval drones have become the long-range precision strike platforms. Autonomous boats have sunk warships. When a military fights a larger enemy with fewer resources, innovation becomes a survival skill. The Protector fits directly into that pattern. Any mission that requires driving a vehicle into a dangerous zone is now a mission that can be unmanned. Any fire support task that puts troops at risk can now be assigned to a robot. That's the essence of modern attrition warfare. Keep people alive and let the machines take the risks. A new class of ground combat vehicle is emerging. If the Protector works well under combat conditions, it opens several strategic doors for Ukraine. First, it gives Ukrainian units a way to deliver fire support without exposing crew members to danger. Every soldier saved today is a soldier ready to fight tomorrow. Second, it creates a mobile gun platform that costs a fraction of an armored personnel carrier. Third, it forces Russian troops to rethink every vehicle they see. A truck approaching the front might be a supply vehicle, a medevac system, an explosive-laden drone, or a remote-controlled gun platform. Russia now has to assume that every Ukrainian vehicle could be unmanned and dangerous. And as a former infantryman, there's gotta be something unnerving about being hunted by an unmanned ground vehicle. Ugh. Another implication is the shift toward distributed unmanned firepower. Ukraine, China, Israel, and the US have all explored UGV combat concepts, but Ukraine is the one using them in real field conditions. That gives Ukrainian engineers and operators real-world lessons that other militaries can only simulate. This system also sets the stage for future variants. A platform like the Protector could carry anti-tank missiles, grenade launchers, mortars, jammers, or integrated FPV drone racks. It could become a mobile surveillance node or a kamikaze platform for hardened positions. Once a country has a reliable unmanned chassis, the range of possibilities grows almost without limit. Ukraine is writing the real-world playbook for ground combat robots. Warfare is shifting away from platforms built around crews. Instead, we're moving toward robotic vehicles built around sensors, autonomy, and attritable firepower. The Protector is part of this change. Ukraine's emerging doctrine focuses on unmanned systems that are cheap enough to lose, powerful enough to make a difference, and simple enough to scale fast. The goal is to create a distributed robotic fire network that complicates Russian targeting and preserves Ukrainian manpower. The war is proving that the future of combat will involve swarms of unmanned systems on land, at sea, and in the air. The Protector shows that the ground domain is finally catching up with the aerial and the naval drone revolutions that Ukraine started, by the way. It won't replace tanks, it won't replace infantry, but it will absolutely replace the need to send human drivers and gunners into high-risk zones where survival is a coin toss. Ukraine's Protector UGV is more than a cool video clip. It's a window into the next generation of warfare, where machines take the risks and soldiers live to fight another day. My take is it's a pretty cool invention, and I look forward to seeing the footage from the ground of it in action. That's it for today, my friends. If you enjoy these deep dives into battlefield innovation, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. This channel exists to cut through the noise, break down the tech, and keep you ahead of the headlines. But more importantly, it helps me push back on Russian disinformation by talking about Ukraine's side of the story for tons of my viewers on YouTube. And as always, glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. Crimea is Ukraine.